Racism. Yes, there is absolutely systemic racism against men. There is special rights and special privileges for women. Special rights and privileges that all of our rights to a fair and speedy trial don't exist. Our right to show evidence doesn't exist. Our right to face our accusers doesn't exist. We have no rights. None. Here's the thing about affirmative action. It's systemic racism. It is systemic deprivation, specifically against white people. Now, it's not the same way in every area. We know that there are black people who have moved their companies offshore because they want to be able to hire exclusively black people. And why wouldn't you? If you've got a magazine about black life and black culture, what the hell is a white person going to bring to the table? Having a white person speak on a black person's issue is so wrong, isn't it? But every day, how many times a day you get to hear who white people are and what white people are and white people this and white people that? Yes, there is more hatred towards white people in this country than any other group. Even white people hate white people, right? Well, there's a lot of black people who hate black people too. It happens. One guy I know, he was lucky enough to get up and out. He was from Chicago, but he got a scholarship, even though he grew up in a very bad neighborhood. And although he was a black kid growing up in that neighborhood, he never had anything good to say about black people. Most of the black people that he had known are just from that neighborhood. After that, he moved and lived in primarily white places, white neighborhoods, white cities like Boulder, Colorado. Whenever we talk about our rights, we get treated like we're part of the KKK. How many of y'all crackers ever been to a Klan meeting? Go ahead, let's see you raise a hands. I never been to a Klan meeting. Most of the white men I know never been to a Klan meeting. Here's the thing, I get treated like I'm writing things that happened centuries ago when it's abuse that I have to endure that is ongoing. I get it thrown in my face that somebody who might have had a similar color of skin to mine owned somebody who had a similar color of skin to yours hundreds of years ago. Well, we have to stop it right there, don't we? And why is that? Because the last black slave in America was apparently freed in 1942. That ain't true either. We still have slavery in the United States. That's what the 13th Amendment did. It created the sundown laws. Now we try to fix the sundown laws by leaving the sundown laws there. They're still on the books everywhere. They're still used against the homeless. That's why they're still there. Look at how much money it costs. Over $100,000 in every single state per prisoner per year. That's what it costs here in the United States to incarcerate a homeless person. That's $8,000 a month. $8,000 per month. Could you imagine That's a lot of money. That is a whole lot of money. $8,000 a month to incarcerate a man. Your taxes are going to pay for programs that aren't helping anybody. They're just referral services. They refer you to the people who are going to refer you to someone who's going to refer you to someone who refers you to someone. Where is your privilege here? Where is your privilege? You can't walk across the street without fear that a woman will pretend like you're some sort of a pervert just for walking across the street. If you look at the clock that's right next to her, you just look at for just one moment, and all of a sudden, you're all over TikTok as some sort of rapey person being creepy. Meanwhile, this woman literally stared at you coming across the parking lot. She's trolling for some guy that she can fucking use as an excuse to harm. It has become so commonplace. And who are the most likely people to be victimized out here on the streets? Who are the most likely to be out here homeless? Men, overwhelmingly. There are no services to help men. When I'm sent to a men's shelter, I get to the men's shelter, they tell me that they can't take me because I'm not a felon. So that's not a men's shelter, that's a felon's shelter. Meanwhile, they have those for women too. There are 15 services for women for every one service for co-ed. That means it serves both men and women. 70 to 85% of our homeless population are men nationwide. Between 70 and 85%, depends on where you're at. The majority of the homeless are men. The people that are most likely to be helped are women. They're most likely to be offered help. They're most likely to have zero life fucking skills. I have never seen a man wait on the side of the road for someone to change his tire for him. Just never happened. That doesn't mean that it's never happened in the history of ever. But the thing is, this privilege crap, every time that you're abused, you get told that you're privileged. You're privileged because you're white. You get blamed for a bunch of things that, first of all, aren't happening to you. You're not getting $50,000 a year. The guys who are making $50,000 a year or more certainly aren't you. The people making the laws certainly are not you. As a man, when you are stalked by a woman and her friends, it's not just a woman and her friends. They're going to run around to all your friends and slander your name. And your friends will say, hey man, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved. Where the fuck is your privilege? No matter what, you can't bring it up to your black friends, or it's, well, it's black people got it worse. We got it worse. Let me tell you about blah, 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 blah. Holy shit, dude. I've been to more rallies than you have. I've been to more BLM events than most of the black people that I've hung out with. A lot of the black folk I know grew up in black neighborhoods that were not nice. And they left with a hatred for black people as if that was all black society. That's how all black people are. No, that's what it's like living in that situation. And you damn well know it. Those of you who go, hey man, I said no to drugs. Yeah, you did. Good for you. Good for you. Now stop fucking giving yourself kudos on that and recognize that that issue is far larger. Far, far larger. It's not just happening in black neighborhoods. It's not just happening in white neighborhoods. The problem here is division of peoples. We're not abiding by our social contract of we, the people. It's every man for himself. Well, we gotta stipulate here that it's every man for himself, because we are all expected to drop whatever we're doing at a moment's notice for a woman who gives us some crocodile tears and a little sob story. If she's not willing to take it to the police, you gotta ask yourself why. I want you to imagine you help one of your female friends out. She's been abused by a guy and she wants to swear you to secrecy. Well, then that guy beats on another one of your friends and she wants to swear you to secrecy. Hey, I don't think this is a good idea. He did the same thing to my other friend. So then she's like, well, you should have told me. And the other friend is like, why'd you tell her? I swore you to secrecy. You're the bad guy now. No matter what, you're the bad guy. If you stay, it'll be bad. If you leave, it'll be worse. How many of y'all ended up raising kids that weren't yours? Of course, everywhere we go, it's white people this and white people that, and white people did it, white people did it, white people did it. It was men, 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 men. Well, just so you know, it's black men going through the same thing as white men when it comes to that. Autistic men being harmed by autistic women because of that, or women who want to pretend that they're autistic so they can hijack it and make it all about women. You want to ignore the men whose lives are lost because women want to pretend that a man might touch them naughty. Meanwhile, what are these men being killed by other men for? Women pretending that he might touch her naughty. We've created a society where basically we just give women what they want. We give minorities what they want. Meanwhile, that's wrong. That is the wrong thing to do. I'm not going to pretend that a black person who committed a crime or murdered a person should be ignored because one group feels that it's harmful to their cause. Joseph Michael Lopez. Listen to that last name. Lopez. That's a Hispanic last name. I could go hating every Hispanic person because Joseph Michael Lopez blew Natalie Bollinger's brains out. I could. That's how a lot of people get started. They're sick and tired of minorities harming them and then pretending that they're racist. Oh, you're a white guy, so you're racist. A black person can't be racist. Hispanic people can't be racist. Only white people can be racist. And then we have 70% of black peoples in this country didn't realize that there was slavery elsewhere. Are you fucking kidding me? Didn't even realize that there was slavery elsewhere. Yeah, our educational system here is great, isn't it? I'm not pretending that the situations with black folks and other minorities aren't happening. And most of you aren't ignoring them either. But you've got your own problems and they're being ignored because you're being told to go to the back of the bus. You're not black, so you couldn't possibly know what it's like to be abused. You're not a woman, so you couldn't possibly know what it's like to be abused. You as a white man are expected to go to the back of the bus, no matter what harm you're enduring, unless you have money. And if you have money, then somebody's going to try using you for a piggy bank. Because obviously white people just sweat money, don't we? When we cry, money falls down. When we take a shit, money falls out. When we take a piss, it's just a matter of pissing through a strainer and getting the change out of it, isn't it? Where the fuck do you think all this free shit's coming from? All this free shit you pretend that we're getting. When you get free money, you don't see it as free money. It's only free money if somebody else gets it. It's only free money if somebody else gets that insurance claim. When you get it, it's, oh, it's owed to me, it's owed to me. I worked for years for that, it's owed to me. But what are you dealing with? What you're dealing with is people telling you, dude, just fucking knock it off. Just go get a job. Now that you're disabled, you're getting treated the way that you wanted to treat other disabled people for years. Just like with the homeless. You're taught about that Second Amendment, and that you got to fear black folks. And many of you fear the homeless far more and fear the police far more. Us privileged white people have to be afraid to go to the police when we're abused. Not all white people live this fantasy life where their body is in perfect condition. Where, of course, a white person can't be abused, so they couldn't possibly have PTSD. None of these other adverse conditions that they have to fight through actually exist. They couldn't possibly. We've got the autism community having to give space for homosexuals, having to give space for trans people and for women, because they're more important than us. All of a sudden, autism is about the trans community and women and gays. Are you fucking kidding me? No matter what, gays want to come in and shut down our voices. Straight people want to come in and shut down our voices. Even white men come in and shut down our voices. Talk over us. Want to be angry and belligerent and pretend that that's okay. Yes, there are more hate crimes against white people than anybody else. We are taught to hate white people, and then we have such horrible representation on TV, don't we? People who are completely fucking clueless. News anchors who never known a day on the streets. Propaganda only works on people who are stupid enough to believe what they're told. You as a white guy are not the bad guy for existing. You don't own the descendants of slaves. You didn't own their ancestors. You don't owe them shit. If you end up homeless, the black community isn't going to give a fuck how much you stuck up for them. The black community is not going to give a fuck. You know why? Because if a black man ends up on the streets, the black community doesn't give a fuck either. If they don't give a fuck about their own people, they don't care about yours. BLM is a racist hate group. Many white people despise the KKK, despise the Aryan Brotherhood. Well, you know what? We have just as much reason to despise BLM. And even more reason to despise the government now. When black people are killed at a higher rate than the homeless, then they can tell us homeless to go to the back of the bus. We have approximately 16% of our population are black. 0.18% of our population are homeless. 0.18. And yet 61% of those killed by police last year were homeless. Only 24% were black. Now that's very high given their percentage, isn't it? Only 16%. Well, approximately the same number are disabled in this country. About 16%, but they account for 51% of those killed by police. Any depression that you ever had in your lifetime can be used as an excuse for a police officer to murder you. Oh, he's got a history of mental illness. And that's one of the things that people want to bitch about, how black people go to jail and white people go to a mental institution. Which one's better? To be called crazy or to be called evil? Because that's truly how people are treated. If you've been to prison, people treat you like you went to prison because you were evil. I went to prison for telling on bad cops, child molesters, people who wanted to take advantage of their position, people who had assaulted me. I had to go to Scott DaCosta in his department repeatedly about Robert Franklin Warnick before Robert actually assaulted me. Because he was stalking me and he was threatening me, but they didn't care. I had to try to turn in Scott DaCosta for not doing his job, and I had to try to turn in Robert Franklin Warnick. Then Scott DaCosta assaulted me. Of course, it's in a racist redneck town. How many of y'all white folks actually agree with that racist redneck town bullshit? You know it's real. You know it happens. Most of you don't agree with it. The majority of you aren't systemic racists trying to get free shit off the government at the expense of hard-working black people who never did no wrong to anybody. This is the narrative sold by BLM, and you know what? The KKK tried pulling that bullshit in the 1980s. There's a lot of people from the South who have varying opinions on the KKK. Depends on who you ask. But the thing is, it is a vigilante group. And it is nationwide. Here in Tillamook, it's a KKK stronghold. There's even recordings in the local McDonald's and the local Fred Meyer's with local racists, some of whom are retired police officers. So we ain't dumb enough to pretend it don't exist. But blatant and open racism against white people has been popular and common my entire life. Well, I was hoping that lady would be here today. I don't see her vehicle. I want to go out and fly a sign. Hopefully get myself enough to get something to eat. That's my white privilege. When someone's being abused and they're disabled, and you want to tell them, well, at least you're not in a wheelchair, you're blowing them off. When you say, at least you're not black, At least you're not an immigrant. At least you're not a woman. Even though we are the highest on every list of abuse, men in specific, the very top of every list of abuse, but women hijack it with the sexual thing. Isn't that right? Most of these women, all they're bringing to the table is trauma, drama, and vagina. And that vagina is used as a tool. Don't be the tool that messes with it. All she's got to do is tell one of the 3 lies and your life is over. You'll never have an honest chance at a decent life again, not unless you've got a family who's rich, or friends who care, or witnesses who aren't fucking cowards. But here in America, you're not allowed to stick up for a white person, or you're part of a systemic racist coup against black people. That's just fucking stupid. Yes, we know these racists exist, and it would be a lot easier to fucking do something about them if you black people weren't busy telling us white people to shut up. Us white people who have to endure abuse. The other victims. You know, in order to get white people to pay attention, maybe you should show them how it fucking affects them. Maybe you should show them how many of their white autistic sons are being fucking systematically murdered. Oh wait, no, we have to make it about black men, right? We have to make it about black men, but then black women are hijacking that even. Oh, how dare these black men take all the attention. We've got black women who are angry because all these black men are rapists. Black women saying this. Trying to shoot all of these black men in the foot. Going, oh, but these black men, you shouldn't be paying attention to them. You should be paying attention to the black women because sex. Because vagina. Because all men want is. More bigotry, more. You're allowed to hate men. You're allowed to harm men for being born with a penis. You're allowed to harm a man for being born white. You're allowed to be systemically racism as a white person or a black person. What you're not allowed to do is stand up to it. How dare you? How dare a white victim come forward because black people want that attention? How dare a black victim come forward because white people want that attention? Well, how about we focus on the victims instead of you pieces of shit all talking over each other? Trying to make everything into a fucking pissing contest about who's got it worse. Someone comes to you for help and you just can't shut up about you. This is why people are sick of BLM. This is why people are sick of the KKK. This is why people are sick of the Me Too movement. Between a woman's honor and a man's life, we're told that we should ignore all of our problems until all women are treated like pretty fucking princesses. Until all women's lives are perfect, men need to go on the back burner. Oh, hell no. That's getting men killed at 5 times the rate of women. In most places. It's even higher among police officers and in cities, oddly enough. The person most likely to beat you to death is your mother. Write that down. In the majority of the instances where men are killed, they're killed by other men. And in most of those cases, drugs or alcohol, primarily alcohol, in over 50% of the victims and 50% of the perpetrators. And over 70% of the time, there was a woman and her fucking drama involved. Most of the time. Men are not sexually motivated. Just that lazy women are taught to be sexual motivators. It's the only thing that they have that's useful. It's the only education that they got is in how to use their vagina as a manipulation tool. And that's not all men's fault. But that's what we get, isn't it? We get treated like it's all men's fault. And we get people typing the kill all men thing, kill all men. Why? Most of us didn't do anything wrong to any of you. Most of us, the worst thing that we ever did is call you out on drama. When it comes to white privilege, it's a joke. It's an outright joke, because by law, with everybody except white men having special rights and special privileges, it doesn't matter that the law says it's illegal to discriminate against someone because of their gender. Everyone discriminates against men. Everyone. Other men discriminate against men. Other men discriminate against men. Police discriminate against men. The courts discriminate against men. Women are 11 times more likely to be stalkers than men in this country. Women are more likely to get other women involved and the men in their lives. You could, with a small town and a popular girl, if she doesn't get what she wants right when she wants it, you could potentially be stalked by literally dozens of people. Because in a small town, all she's got to do is spread rumors. Oh, he might. I'm afraid that a man might do this because look at him, he's ugly. And yes, people do think like that. And we do get to see that, yes, women are more prone to that than men. Women are more prone to caring what someone looks like than men. Women are more likely to stalk a man for saying no than a man is to stalk a woman for saying no. When a woman and her friends stalk a man, if he comes forward and speaks up, they pretend he's a stalker for speaking up. No matter how much evidence a man has, he has to find a woman to look at it and admit that it happened. Because men are assumed to be guilty, especially homeless men. And you know exactly what slander to say. Oh, he's a druggie, he's a rapist, he's a chimo, he beats on women. You already know what to say when you don't get your way. You already know that nobody's going to care. You already know that as a woman in this country, there are going to be no consequences for you destroying an innocent man's life because he told you no. When a man drives 1,700 miles to get away from you, is that enough of a, hey, I'm done with you? No, that's apparently not. You expect us to jump over backwards and bend over backwards for you. Natalie wanted me to promise that I would drive 1,700 miles to go see her in Virginia. Or get on an airplane to go see her in Virginia. Or she wasn't going to go to Virginia. When I drove to Virginia, what did she do? She asked me to go do a bunch of fun stuff with her that I went and did with her. I stayed where her and her sister told me to. We went to the places that they wanted to go. But then, of course, Natalie was on drugs. Actually on drugs. She wanted to pretend that I stalked her there when the broken phone that I was given for my birthday, it was already broken. Natalie wasn't using it because it was broken. My car broke down. That's not a decision. That's part of life happening. Then, of course, the cops there were sexist. The hospital was sexist. At least I got my vehicle back. At least I got to leave there. When a man drives 1,700 miles to get the fuck away from you, that's a fucking sign that he's done. Leave him the fuck alone. You already won. When he drives 1,700 miles to get away from you and your family, and is turning down people who live close to you, like Brett Roloff wanted me to come see him in North Carolina. I kept telling him no. I don't want to be that close to Natalie or her family. I already know what a fucked up situation it turns into for men, because I have seen it happen to men my entire life. You don't have to do anything wrong. No to a woman does not mean no. We're told no means no. No means no. Well, apparently, it only means no when a woman says it. When a man says it, it means do it again. And it's the same thing with BLM. The thing is, I didn't make racist white people racist white people. I didn't make racist black people into racist black people. And I for goddamn sure am not going to pretend that somebody who's racist cannot be racist because of the color of their skin. I'm not going to pretend that women can't be rapists, that women can't be sexual predators, when there have now been 16 women in the United States this year alone who got busted having sex with students. Almost half of them pregnant with a student's child. How many male teachers have gotten a female student that's pregnant this year? How many? I'm still waiting. How many male teachers were arrested this year for, well, basically improper conduct? None of them were arrested. Not a single one of them was arrested for actually having sex with a student. None of them. Do you know what the average sentence for those men is going to be? 16 years. Do you know what the average sentence for those women is going to be? 8 months. 8 months. And in many of those cases, the underage child that teacher was having sex with is going to have to pay her money. That's right. A child having to pay the pedophile. I want you to get that through your head real quick. We have male children paying their sex offenders, the people who offended them. And these male children are having to pay these sex offenders. How much more likely is a female educator to have sex with a student than a male educator? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. About 5 to 1. You're about 5 times more likely to encounter a female sexual predator who is a teacher than a male sexual predator who is a teacher. Now, this is just the female teachers that were busted having sex. And how many of them wanted to cry, oh poor me, oh poor me, oh poor me, while screaming, kill men, kill men, kill men? Or what's the other one? Oh, there's a bunch of them, isn't there? A bunch of these, you should always believe the victim, but then when you go to these victims' rights advocacy places, they're very pointedly calling hims predators and she's the victims. It's that way for a reason. It's pre-predicated stupidity. The media is busy painting all homeless people as drug addicts, rapists, child molesters, woman beaters, wife beaters. The majority of us are systemic abuse victims. We're easy to abuse because we're alone, and white men are taught that they have to do it alone. Meanwhile, white men grow up where all of the societies around them are family-oriented. Hispanic people's very family-oriented. Why are Hispanic people doing better in this country than most of the white families that I know? Because Hispanic families very much work together. And that's not to say every one of them does. It's to say that culturally they're taught to. Whereas culturally, we are taught every man for himself. When I was growing up, a lot of white people wanted to talk about machismo. This is macho man kind of stuff. You do as the man says, and the man gets to bully everyone around, and it makes it okay in Hispanic society for all sorts of horrible crimes. And the machismo is not about a Hispanic propensity for rape like we were taught. No, it's about protecting your family, dumbasses. When your kid's trying to run across the road, are you yelling at your kid because you're a hateful macho asshole? Or is it because you don't want your kid getting run over by a fucking car? It's no different if you got brown skin, assholes. Because of systemic racism through the years, black people are taught to stick together. Hispanic people are taught to stick together to protect themselves from white predators. White people are not allowed to do that, or it's called a racist hate group. But the thing is, the Second Amendment isn't for just racial predators. The person who comes to your door to kill you might not be some black random stranger trying to break into your house because he's a crackhead like you want to lead us all on to believe. It might be your brother coming into your house to shoot you because he's been fucking your wife. Every man for himself. We taught both men and women to do this. Both men and women. And then we always have it shoved on our face that we're all racist just because we're white. No matter what we do for others, we're not doing enough because we're white. That we don't care about others because we're white. But all of our problems are shoved to the back of the bus, aren't they? Because we're white, and specifically because we're men. Autistic males are not being heard because autistic females or women who didn't get what they wanted and want to pretend they're autistic want to hijack it. Men are the most likely to commit suicide, but women hijack all of that from us by making it about them and pretending it's all because girls are raped. No, it's not. It's because girls are heard and boys aren't. That's why you get to hijack it. That's why women get to hijack BLM. That's why women get to hijack the BLM movement. They get to hijack the Me Too movement. They get to hijack the disability movement. They get to hijack the missing and murdered indigenous peoples movement. They've literally hijacked everything from us. And that's why we're not heard, and that's why we're at the top of the suicide list, the top of the murdered list, the top of the incarcerated list, the top of the list of who is most likely to be stalked, but also we're at the top of the list who's most likely to be incarcerated for stalking, because a woman's voice is heard by everyone. We're horrible, horrible, misogynistic pigs if we don't side with the woman. We promote rape if we don't side with the woman. We must be rapists ourselves if we don't side with the woman. We're showing our dominant male monkey pig dog genes when we call you out on your bullshit. And we tell on you for being a druggy whore, we must be rapists now, right? Oh, I thought he was going to touch my naughty. Really? Now, let me tell you, I'm out here on the streets. I see plenty enough predators out here. I see lots of drug addicts too. And yes, every drug addict that you are going to encounter on the streets is going to take an advantage of you if they can. Every drug addict in America will take advantage of you if they can. But the fact still remains, the gateway drug is trauma. Trauma. Suicide doesn't come from being abused, it comes from being neglected. Suicide comes from a loss of hope. Why are white men so high on the list of likely to kill themselves? Because we have no hope. There are no special rights for us. Our white privilege doesn't exist. On paper, which is what you care about. It doesn't matter how much evidence I have of human trafficking. Nobody's going to look at it. They're just going to believe somebody else's word. When Jamie was assaulted in the Dalles, Oregon, at that church parking lot, that church parking lot is run by felons as if it is a prison yard. Except it's a co-ed prison yard. You know what happens to Jamie after a situation like that? Jamie got kicked off the property because she was assaulted. He pushed her. He chased her down. He punched her in the back of the head. And of all the people there who wanted to say, oh, it's never okay to hit a woman, never okay to hit a woman, not a single one of them spoke up. I was the only person who did. It is recorded on my YouTube channel. I went to the mandated reporters who were supposed to do something about the at-risk and disabled adults being abused. The church kicked her off the property. You know what they do to her when she's kicked off the property? The predatory men go to one of her 3 spots because she's going to one of them. And they will rape her and beat her again where people can't see it. At least at that church parking lot, she has some semblance of safety. Hopefully, if she's being beaten to death, nobody's gonna fucking just watch. Hopefully, they'll pull him off of her. But there's also the things that women were throwing at her. If they'd have hit her in the head, could have killed her. But you also get to see how it comes down to someone like me or someone like you to speak up in that situation. We're men. We're expected to speak up in that situation. Well, I ask you, how many men were there? How many men were there that said nothing and did nothing and just allowed it to happen? They are completely defeated. There's not a man left in those shells. Just alcohol and drugs. In Boulder, Colorado, the homeless worked together. Most of us were not on drugs. Most of us had jobs. And most of us knew how expensive it was to live there. Yeah, sometimes you'd have 6 homeless people living in an apartment. But all 6 of those homeless people were also picking up the apartment complex, because if it doesn't look bad, they're probably not going to get harassed as bad. But we get blamed for everything. We get blamed for drug addicts in houses. Those of us out here on the streets who don't do drugs, nobody cares that we don't do drugs. What they care about is that, quote unquote, the homeless do drugs. Really? People in houses don't do drugs? Is that what you're trying to insinuate? Your kids are getting their drugs from somewhere. These homeless are getting their drugs from somewhere. They don't have a place to manufacture it. They're fucking homeless. These kids don't have a place to manufacture it unless they're manufacturing it in your house. All these drugs out here are coming from people in houses. None of these drugs came from homeless people. None of the drugs being used by homeless people came from people on the streets. They were all manufactured elsewhere. You want to talk about the homeless drug problem? Look at all these people who were traumatized until they had nothing left but the streets. How many of them grew up in the system and got dropped off with nothing? I didn't even have an ID when I turned 18. I got dropped off out of the system at 18 years old. I only had one friggin' shoe on. I had a pair of socks, one shoe, a t-shirt, and a pair of pants. That's what I had. I didn't have an address, didn't have a driver's license, didn't have a state ID, didn't have nothing. And people literally had to break the law. A woman named Polly Olson, who was the Dual County clerk, literally broke the law. Claimed that she'd known me for over 10 years so that I could finally get a state ID in Nebraska where there's no services. And people don't see you as a human being. What they see is a man and what is expected of a man socially. Not what the law says, but what is expected of a man socially. And most of America runs this way. People don't give a fuck what the law has to say unless it benefits them at that moment. If it doesn't, they'll try telling you how Christian they are and got to give it to Jesus. But the moment it's happening to them, they throw the Jesus right out the fucking window and call 911, don't they? Of course. And nobody addresses the fact that the police won't take a police report from a homeless person. No, it's going to be them standing there talking at us like we're retarded. None of the things that they do for you fucking assholes in houses do they actually do for us. When we try to get them to do that, they play stupid like they don't know what the fuck we're talking about. We're expected to be everybody's great white hope. We white people are expected to fix every goddamn thing, and we're expected to ignore our own issues because of it. We have to drop everything for blacks. We have to drop everything for women. We have to drop everything for everybody else but ourselves. And then the law has special rights for each of these groups that we're not doing enough for no matter what. And how many of them are doing anything for us? except slandering our names and pretending that because we're white, we're predators. We're white, we must be predators. We're men, we must be predators. You know what? Black men have to deal with being treated like they must be predators because they're men too. Native American men get the same thing. This at the bottom says this message is held for a view message. Wow, looks like somebody who wants to get blocked from my channel will do that right now. Hide user on this channel. It was so easy. If only we could do that in real life. Just block the user from our channel. White men who are autistic are supposed to shut up and go to the back of the bus because they're white and because they're men. Meanwhile, you are more likely to experience racism against you. You are more likely to be called a cracker than a black person is to be called the N-word. You are more likely to be described by the color of your skin. It's not socially acceptable. If a trans person sexually assaults you, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to be politically correct, or are you going to say, hey, that man in a dress over there raped me? Oh, well, as a man, you aren't actually technically supposed to come forward, are you? You're supposed to shut up about it. Well, now that man in a dress is going to get a big head because he already got away with it. Just like the man who raped your daughter got a big head when you didn't help to turn that shit in. And now you've got 2 sexual predators on the loose, dummies. Jesus fucking Christ. And people pretend I'm stupid.